We're often told that a great leader is some kind of hero, right? Someone who's decisive, who has all the answers. But what if that idea is just completely wrong? Today, we are digging into a really powerful concept called systems leadership. And honestly, it might just change how you think about your job, your team, and even who's really in charge.
We all love this quote from Steve Jobs. It's the ideal, isn't it? The belief that true success comes from a team of brilliant people working together. But here's the thing. What if the very way our workplaces are set up is actively fighting against that ideal?
It's like there's this invisible operating system running in the background of most companies, and it was designed for a totally different world, a different time. At its core, it's built on a fundamental distrust of the very people who are supposed to be doing the work.
To really get this, we've got to go back in time, like over a century back, actually. We need to meet the engineer who, for better or for worse, pretty much designed the modern workplace as we know it.
So this guy's name was Frederick Winslow Taylor. He created a system called scientific management, which everyone just calls Taylorism now. It was all about maximizing efficiency, breaking down every little step of a workflow. But the whole thing was built on a pretty cynical belief about people. See, Taylor basically believed that workers were lazy. He thought they'd naturally slack off. He even had a term for it, soldiering. So his solution was rigid control. On the left, that's his worldview. And on the right, well, that's the modern knowledge worker, the people we hire specifically because they can think for themselves. The disconnect here is massive.
And that 100-year-old ghost, oh, it is still haunting us. It's the silent force behind the whole back to the office debate. When you see a stat like this, that 85% of leaders don't trust their people to be productive at home, even when all the data says otherwise, that is the echo of Taylorism. It's this deep-seated belief that if you can't see someone working, they must be slacking off.
Okay, so if that top-down control freak model is basically obsolete for the kind of work we do today, what's the alternative? This is where systems leadership comes in. But first, we need to get really clear on what it isn't. First off, it's not just a fancy new word from management. A manager's job is to delegate tasks. A systems leader's job is to build the environment where tasks get done well. It's also not about being the smartest person in the room with all the technical answers. In fact, sometimes that can actually get in the way. Let's use a fantastic and maybe unexpected example, a really talented hairdresser. Just think about it for a second. In under 5 minutes, they listen to what you want. They balance all these constraints, hair chemistry, your personality, the budget. They envision this complex chemical process, and then they synthesize it all into action. That is pure systems thinking in action. That hairdresser example really gets to the heart of it. Systems leadership is a mindset, first and foremost. It's way less about commanding people and much more about connecting them. It's about architecting the flow of information and collaboration. A systems leader is always looking at the connections between things, between people, between projects. They don't just run around putting out fires, they're looking for what's causing the smoke in the first place. Their main goal is to orchestrate the whole environment, to create a space where great work can just naturally happen, instead of trying to control every little thing. And here's the most crucial point. The systems leader isn't the hero who swoops in with all the answers. They are the architect of what you could call an ecology of change. They create an environment where the team is empowered to see clearly, think together, and adapt when things inevitably change. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, right? But what does it actually look like when things are messy, when the stakes are high, and everything is chaotic? Well, let's dive into a powerful, real-world story that really brings this idea to life. So the story kicks off with a crisis. A cat named Marisha is critically ill. She can't breathe, and nobody has a clue why. It's a complex, messy problem with no obvious answer. The first few experts who look at her do what we so often do with complex problems. They try to apply a simple, linear solution. Each vet is absolutely certain they know what's wrong, but they all have different answers, and they're all wrong. They're just treating symptoms, not seeing the whole system. And then, the leader in the story steps in. And he doesn't pretend to have the answer. He does the opposite. He admits what he doesn't know and completely reframes the situation with 5 simple words. We are debugging the cat. Suddenly, it's not about finding who's right. It's a collaborative investigation into the unknown. Now, here is the amazing part. He never found a single cause. There was no aha moment.
But by just observing the patterns, by understanding the relationships within the cat's biological system, he found a leverage point, a place where one small intervention could create a huge positive change. And he saved her life.
This story just perfectly illustrates the core practices, doesn't it? He kept the whole messy equation in his head. He was constantly learning and changing his mind. He used his deep expertise, sure, but he also used his intuition. He was debugging a complex system, not just following a simple checklist. Now, this way of thinking doesn't just change how we lead our teams. It actually forces us to completely redefine what success even looks like. We're so used to measuring success with a single metric, right? Like profit. But a systems view asks totally different questions. Is the system healthy? Can it adapt? Is it equitable? Success stops being about dominating a system and becomes about how well all the parts can thrive within it. And when we only focus on one narrow metric, we can miss some really critical imbalances. Take the tech industry, for instance. A 2022 study showed that almost 92% of software engineers around the world are men. Now, from a systems perspective, an imbalance that huge is probably not an accident. It points to a classic systemic pattern, one that the great systems thinker Donella Meadows called success to the successful. And this isn't about blaming individuals. It's about a structure where those who already have an advantage get more resources and more opportunities, which creates this feedback loop that just reinforces the original imbalance over and over again. Ultimately, that's what systems leadership is all about. It's the practice of seeing these connections, understanding these hidden patterns, and then having the courage to intervene at just the right leverage point. It's not a title someone gives you. It's a choice you make every day. So the final question is for you. What's the one conversation you can start that might create a small positive shift in the system that you're part of?